Hi there! I'm here to talk a little bit about the FNAF 2 movie. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Thana. I'm an awkward VTuber who talks about things she's passionate about for some reason, and you guys just happen to listen. Thank you, by the way. So, this video is going to be a bit different from the videos I typically do on the channel. They're usually anime or Japanese video game related, but I love FNAF. And that shouldn't be too much of a surprise. In the description of my channel, it even says that I love cute things and old games. Now, you could argue with me and say that the animatronics are not that cute, considering they're dead children and their souls are stuffed inside of colorful teddy bears. But, you know, I think that in its own right is very cute. I'm someone who loves the occult and paranormal, and I think those things are super interesting. So of course I'm going to find the giant teddy bear that happens to also be a dead child very cute. The concept of them is not cute, but Freddy is cute. Come on, you can't look at Freddy and tell me he's not kind of cute. He is cute. So, back on track, I seen the FNAF 2 movie in theaters. And since it's dangerous to go alone, you should always take a plushie with you. Well, not always, but for the most part, the plushie does help. Trust. I seen the FNAF 2 movie and I just have one thing to say. I loved it. It's not without its faults. A lot of the jank with the marionette are a bit goofy. I can tell you that much. It's a bit goofy. But overall, I think the FNAF 2 movie is definitely a horror movie in comparison to what the FNAF 1 movie was. I loved the FNAF 1 movie. Don't get me wrong. I loved it a little bit more than the second one, but that's not here nor there. I loved them both. And the first movie, I wouldn't exactly call it horror. It didn't really have a lot of spookiness to it. It was more like a thriller that was targeted at FNAF fans. Actually, that segues me into my next talking point that I was going to bring up. I think that the movies, both of them, are great. And I keep seeing screenshots and I keep seeing videos of people talking about how the critic score was 11%. And then they fail to completely mention that with that statistic, there is also the 89% audience score, which is absolutely insane, by the way. That means critics didn't like it, but the fans did. And something I seen in a review, I don't remember which one it was, they said that the movie was too targeted towards fans, and which, yes, I can see where that would be a problem, and I can understand the thought behind it. However, I just don't agree. I'm going to bring this comparison up not because the movies are similar in any way, but they are both video game related movies. So, the Mario movie, it was nice. The Mario movie, it does have a lot of little nods to the games, much like the FNAF movie does. However, I do feel like a lot of the Mario movie characterizations, and a lot of the styling and stuff was made so that in general audience outside of its usual fans would also enjoy the movie. And as someone who appreciates being authentic to the source material more than something appealing to all audiences, I much prefer when the directors and writers of a movie are, making this movie with FNAF fans in mind. So I ended up not enjoying the Mario movie as much as I thought I would, for that fact alone. That's a whole nother thing that I'm not going to talk about too much in this video. Maybe if this video does well, or if you guys actually want to hear my thoughts about the Mario movie, I can tell you about that. And it would be especially relevant since the second Mario movie is coming out soon. But I'm getting off track. The main reason I bring this up is because my personal opinion, I did not enjoy the Mario movie half as much because I do feel like they altered the characters and such to appeal more to a greater audience. And I'm not saying that they didn't do that with FNAF 2. However, I do feel like the FNAF 2 movie appeals more to the existing fan base and has a lot of, fan service in quotation marks compared to the Mario movie, which, it's on one hand, it's like, oh, but isn't it relying a little too much on fan service? And I think no. I think not. I think that one of the reasons why video game movies haven't done as well in the past is because the movies that were based on video games, just take the Doom movie, for example, it was changed and watered down a little too much to the point to where this was not even a Doom movie. This was more like a generic space shooter movie that had the Doom title tied to it. And so one of my fears with the FNAF movie, and when the first FNAF movie was teased, was I was kind of scared that they would make it a generic slasher film, but have the Five Nights at Freddy's name attached to it. And they didn't do that, thank goodness. I'm someone who loves horror, slasher films, and stuff, and I really appreciated how FNAF as a horror film franchise has not been just the exact same thing. Something that's in the slasher film genre space a lot is scary psycho murderer guy murders a bunch of people in very brutal ways, and at the end of the movie he does not die, and we get another 5 movies of the exact same thing. But you watch these movies because you want to see that, I think. I don't know. That's a whole nother in itself for another day. But I loved the FNAF 2 movie. My favorite animatronic actually happens to be the marionette. And to my surprise, FNAF 2 was largely revolving around the marionette. And I quite like the way that the movie depicted the marionette, and the lore in the movies is actually a lot easier to follow than the lore from the games. I love Scott Cawthon, and I love almost everything he creates, but his storytelling is not the most linear thing. And I think that if you're someone who is interested in getting to know the FNAF lore, and you're interested in learning a lot more about FNAF, but you're new, you could definitely watch these movies. The lore is very streamlined, and it's a lot easier to understand versus if you were to just go play FNAF 1, FNAF 2, FNAF 3, FNAF 4, FNAF 5, FNAF 6. There's a lot of FNAF games, and the lore behind those said games is a lot to unpack, and it's not really the easiest to recommend to someone who, just got into things. And it's also not the easiest to piece the FNAF timeline together when you take into consideration that there are bits of the FNAF lore that aren't in the games, or you can't really find them in the games, but you do find them in Scott's novels, which are great. You should go give them a read. They're all pretty great. But no one is going to sit down and read every single Scott Cawthon novel because they're not me, okay? They're not going to do that. So I do think that these movies, while they do have their faults and some of the scenes look a bit goofier than others, I do think that the FNAF 2 movie was amazing, and I love all of the nods, calls to the fans, and everything that were in those movies. No matter how cheesy they may seem, I've always been someone who believes in it's a fun time, and I love it. And again, I'm not saying it is without its faults, because it definitely is. No movie is perfect, but I loved the movie. And if you'd actually like to see a bit more in-depth analysis, this probably won't be the video for you. This is mostly just me sharing my thoughts about the FNAF 2 movie. I like the way, this is spoilers by the way, if you haven't seen the FNAF 2 movie, please skip this part, or etc, etc. So the FNAF 2 movie, at the end of the movie, Vanessa is confronted by Michael Afton, and I love the way they portrayed Michael in the movie, by the way. Michael is confronted by Vanessa, and Michael basically reminds her that you're an Afton for life. No matter what you do, you're going to be an Afton, so why are you even trying? And near the end of the movie, Mike Schmidt tells Vanessa, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with you. Stay away from my daughter, or not my daughter. Stay away from Abby, and
never talk to us again. And so Vanessa starts to realize, oh, maybe what they're saying is true. Maybe I really am an Afton for life. And so we see her being possessed by the marionette. And what I think personally is that this is going to lead up to, Vanny becoming a thing in the third movie. And I just love how all of this is tied in together, and it's making the lore so cohesive. And you want to understand FNAF a lot, this is definitely going to be something that's easier for you to digest. Like, oh my god, it's crazy. And I also can't help but love the animatronics that they showed. They were all so cute, and I think I would actually cry if I met any of them in person. I will leave a quick disclaimer that I am terrified of Mangle. Mangle is terrifying. The whole scene with the car and Mangle destroying everything made me scared of Mangle, and I'm not really scared of Mangle. At least I wasn't scared of Mangle before. But now I am. Thank you for listening to me yap and ramble for a really long time about the FNAF 2 movie. I loved it so much, and it's so great. I can't wait for the third movie. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to hear me talk more about any other kind of movie or something else that I mentioned in this video, please let me know down in the comments, and I'd be happy to oblige. Okay, bye-bye! Have a nice day, and don't forget, take care of yourself.